going to focus on our speakers today. I attend a lot of webinars and I hear a lot of people speaking, and I always want to know, like, who are these people behind these projects and what got them to where they are today. So we want to spend just a minute getting to know who these people are on a more personal level. So I'm going to ask each of you to just answer a couple of questions here. I'm going to ask it together, to tell us what really inspired you to work with youth-centered programs. And, just briefly, but what's your story? What was your journey to get you to where you are today in this kind of role? So why don't I start with Kini? There we go.
Hi. Yeah. So the first question, what inspired you to do your work with youth-centered programs? I think I was inspired through my career as a school nurse and a youth advisor for about 12 years. Maine is a large state, and we had the good fortune of having a lot of youth serving programs that worked in school settings. And we were able to bring groups of youth, cross-sector groups of youth, to our school-based health center in a leadership role, and to watch them to grow and develop their voice and understand their, to listen to them understand and recognize how they can empower their own health and their voice through advocacy and supporting the work in the school that they did. So I think it's my long setting with youth at the school-based health center and my connection to adolescents there, and bringing them through and helping them understand advocacy. Mm-hmm. And it might have been easier to start with the second question about who I am. Do you want me to do that, or are we waiting?
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. So my background, I'm a registered nurse. My early career was in maternal and child health. I was a labor nurse for a number of years before going into leadership, but it really grounded me to understand that there are no two families alike, and that everybody showed up to have their babies and do the very best they could. And it was our role, my role, to support them and meet them where they're at. And then moving that work to community health as well, to support families going home with their new child into communities, into their homes, and just supporting them, again, meeting them where they're at. And then that developmental work across my career, leading in the later years before I moved into more public health work, but working with adolescents. So I really enjoyed the continuum of children in their development. And I just love our state and our community. So this positive connection is really a key for me in my work.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Kini, for sharing. I'm learning more about you every time. Paz, do you mind going next and telling us a little bit about your story?
You want me to start with the story?
Either one, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be in space with you all. I'll start with the first question. What inspired me to work with youth-centered programs? I think just, growing up in an environment and seeing these things happening, in communities that I was in or around, and not having, access to programs or awareness of various programs, dealing with some of the stigma around mental health, being able to work with students and listening just to some of the conversations, being able to hear some of what they were saying, and really that kind of leads our work, is listening to the students and hearing what they're saying and or what they're interested in and want, and trying to work to provide those things or opportunities for them. So I think that's what really inspired the work, and seeing people before me, as well as people currently just doing the work and being inspired to want to be a part of, creating change and positive impact in our community. I guess the story of my journey, I'm originally from South Carolina, but I live here in Colorado. Been living here for 20 plus years, and I don't know, there wasn't a lot of these opportunities, I think, for me, or wasn't aware of them. And apparently a lot of students still aren't aware of these types of opportunities. It's still a thing. So I really want to, impact in that area and be a resource and or try to increase the awareness of these resources that are available out here for students. A lot of times they're just not connected to. I started working with youth through sports, and that led to being a part of Big Brother, Big Sister program, where I did that for a few years. And kind of in the midst of that, started, figuring out how I wanted to do it, something I always wanted to do. And then I met my partner, and we just took Tai Chi and wellness and a book that my partner had started writing called The Apprentice of Peace and Uncommon Dialogue. And we just put it all together into, this opportunity to work with students. And it continues to grow in that sense, because mental health was not necessarily the terminology we were using, or social emotional awareness or anything like that, but it very quickly became apparent how important and the meaning of those words, because we were having those conversations. And so it just kind of grew in that sense. And I've had the opportunity to just continue to learn and be in space with wonderful people and learn and try to grow in my skills to create impact.
Thank you. I mean, we've known each other for a while, and I didn't know half of that. So thanks for sharing. All right, Danielle, how about you?
Thank y'all for having me. And funny enough, that first question was, I will always remember, it was an interview question for my current position. And so I remembered actually back to high school, there was, I think, two main reasons why I am kind of on the trajectory that I have been. And it was one of my uncles, who I used to hang out with after school, because he lived close by. He and I just really grew really close during high school. And it was just because he listened to me and took me seriously, and didn't dismiss the things I said. And then also my school counselor was really good at making space for us and hearing us when we needed it, and she was very much meeting us where we were at a lot of the time. And so I would say those two things, those two moments or experiences, really got me onto oh, things can be really good for as a young person if you do have adults that are supporting you. And I really got that outside of your family. I really got that at a young age, luckily, and that kind of just set me on my way. And I always knew from the moment I graduated from high school that I wanted to work with youth or teens, but I just didn't know how. And so this goes into the how did I get here today? I thought I was going to be a school psychologist. I did not want to get my PhD, however, so I decided to go get my master's in social work. And while I was there, while I was getting my master's at DU, I'm originally from Texas, been in Denver for almost 8 years now. But I went to go get my master's in DU for a master's of social work, and I made sure that all of my internships were youth-centric. And so I was in a drop-in center my second year for queer youth called Rainbow Alley here in Denver. And it was one of the best experiences where I got to just see young people living their their authentic lives and dealing with a lot of difficult things outside of what was going on at Rainbow Alley, but just seeing that weight lifted and just seeing them become who they truly are. It will always hold a special place in my heart and really helped me in my own growth as a queer person as well. And then in my first year internship, I was in a after school program in the public housing areas here in Denver. And that was also a great experience because I got to learn what it meant to facilitate, what it meant to really meet young people where they're at, depending on the day and the situation, the holiday, whatever it was. And it was just a really great experience for me. And I kept wanting to have this impact. And so I decided to go into child welfare for a couple of years. And that was it's a hard job. Just to be honest, it's 100% one of the hardest things I think I've ever done in my life. And at the same time, I learned so much about what young folks who are in many different systems, kind of just being shuffled from one system to the next, kind of what is that experience for them? And again, what did it mean to have somebody who was trying to be in their corner, but was also kind of limited depending on the systems of what we could do. But again, I saw that like what they needed. And so after I was done with child welfare, I was like, I need to go back to like youth empowerment, youth work. And I joined an organization at the time. It was called Uprise. It was a grant where we take a social justice approach to youth tobacco work. And that has beautifully grown into a team that now has many projects. And so we've become a hub for justice-centered youth engagement. And now I work on Uprise, which I love and has been really fulfilling. And I've been able to partner with One Colorado and one of my teammates, and we are doing this queer world network. And so this little piece of me where that like got to see all the stuff at Rainbow Alley is just really happy because I get to try and replicate or do something similar, but in an online space for youth across Colorado and not just in the Denver metro. So that's just a little brief story about how I got here.
Well, thank you so much.